I think we're going to actually get started early. Woo! For those who don't know me, I'm Reverend Craig Peterson. Last August, I was called as the new Associate Conference Minister for Congregational Development. And so that's kind of one of the hats I will wear today, and I'll tell you at various points in the next 2 hours why that is. In addition, I staff the New Jersey Association, and so on behalf of the conference, welcome, we're thrilled. For those of you who wonder, where do our OCWM dollars go? Whatever happens with those things, today is one of the manifestations of that. So, as we start the workshop today for the next hour, we're going to go on a three-part journey. We're going to hear about how O&A can strengthen the lives of our local churches. Then we're going to go into part two, which talks about how the open and affirming movement can get manifested beyond not just a local church, but even a conference, and how that work can be done regionally. And we'll use the experience of an entity called Gateway O&A in the St. Louis area. And then today we're blessed to have the new executive director of the Coalition for LGBTQIA+ concerns, Reverend Dr. Katrina Roseborough-Marsh, with us. And you'll notice a very intentional tact or tone today as we talk about O&A stuff. When I came out 31 years ago, there was sort of this nervousness around pursuing an O&A identity. It's going to be controversial. It'll split our church. What's going to happen to us? And I wanted to flip the narrative and say, you know what's going to happen to you? If you step out and live those gospel values, amazing things. So to start the local church experience, I had asked Reverend Ann Orlovsky from First Congregational Church in Montclair to share a bit of a story or reflection about how one O&A church was changed from this. She wasn't able to be with us in person, so she wrote this up, and I'm going to start with excerpts from her story and that of Montclair. She writes, "I've long felt that our congregation was a proverbial canary in the coal mine when it came to church trends. For when I first joined First Congregational, or FCC, as a seminary intern in 2004, we were staring into an abyss. Only 35 folks in worship, a bank account that was steadily dwindling, a big, grand building that was falling into disrepair, and a congregation of the faithful few who were getting dangerously close to burnout. The word in the street was that FCC was closing. We had run our cycle, and our time was up. After all, there was another big, vibrant UCC church just 2 miles up the road, and another in the next town over, and another, and another. And they all seemed to be doing fine, but we were not. We talked, and we prayed, and we dreamed, and we argued. Was there a reason for us to even be here in this big, beautiful building? Or was it time to turn out the lights? Maybe this feels like the story of your church, too," she writes. So we started those difficult conversations over 20 years ago, struggling to understand what our purpose was, our mission, how we could reignite a spiritual spark in our community. For the old way of being church was obviously dying, but it wasn't clear what was being born. So finally in 2002, FCC called a new pastor who was a truly breath of fresh air. As an openly gay man, Reverend Scott Howell had an inclusive vision for the church that would truly shake things up. He invited the congregation to go through the open and affirming process so that they truly understood what it would mean to welcome LGBTQ+ folks into the full life of the church. And he emphasized that O&A was not just about sexuality, but about all the expressions of humanity in our age. And that if we were going to truly be open and affirming, we must be willing to lay a foundation of radical hospitality. While the vote carried the day, there were some who could not reconcile being O&A with their faith and chose to leave. And that was painful. But we knew that there would be dozens of churches where they would feel welcome and who would be happy to have them. Our O&A process convinced us that the heart of the gospel was inclusivity and welcome. And we came to believe that our diverse identities were to be celebrated and not denied or condemned. So in the weeks that followed, we put up an enormous rainbow flag on the imposing stone walls of our church. We were located just off the bustling downtown of Montclair. We got lots of foot and car traffic in front of our sanctuary. Time and again we heard brakes squeal as cars stopped mid-street to check out our rainbow flag. Some folks were thrilled to see a church so bold, and others shook their heads. And yet, at first, there were tentatively a few gay couples that showed. Were we really serious about this welcome, they wondered? Could they hold hands during worship? Could they serve in church? Could they have a civil union in our church? Yes, this was the time before legalized gay marriage. And then we started drawing straight folks who had gay family members or friends or were just allies. They came because they wanted to worship in a place that was aligned with their understanding of the Gospels. And she was called a senior minister in 2009, and inspired by that O&A stance, they began to draw the circle wider. We soon attracted people of color. Many had a different choice to make in their conservative home congregations, to either stay in the closet or find a new church home where they could be fully welcomed in their queer identity. Because of the flag and welcoming reputation, many decided to give us a try and then decided to stay. And as they came through the doors, we put our radical hospitality into action, meaning that we did not welcome them with the expectation that they would become like us and conform to our way of being church. Instead, we hoped they would change us. And they did. And today, because of leaning into that O&A identity, we are almost 50% LGBTQ+, and almost 50% communities of color. We've gone from being 35 in worship to over 150 in worship most Sundays, including dozens of children and youth. And she notes that just last Sunday they celebrated their 7th Pride Sunday.
Amen.
And it was a joyous, intergenerational, multicultural celebration of the rainbow body of Christ. So that, friends, is what can happen when you lean into the identity and embrace the rainbow that God is calling us to be. So before we move to the second part about the regional efforts, there's another moving story that's going on with one of our local churches, also in the New Jersey Association, Homedale Community Church. And I wanted them to share a piece of their story and witness of how living out their identity is making a difference in their community.
Hi, I'm Reverend Lauren McGrail, and I'm the interim pastor at Homedale Community UCC. I just started in January. Before that, I've done some other interim work, West Coast, upstate New York, and I was your mission personnel in Israel and Palestine for 5 years. And I've been a long-time activist since 1968. Wow, you're that old. I am that old. And I want to just share a little bit of a current story that we are living into that maybe resonates with you. Homedale Community UCC, part of the reason I came to them was the flags. They boldly fly Black Lives Matter flag and the LGBTQIA plus flag. And I thought, well, that's a good sign. But that's not enough, but they fly the flags. And I live now in the manse, and I watch the flags get tangled up. And when I first moved there, I said, I should go over there and fix the flags. shouldn't. They are tangled. They are woven together. It's perfect. So I spent a lot of time taking pictures of the tangled flags. Well, here's the thing. I saw a church that was striving to be open and welcoming to all. And when I say that, this is a predominantly conservative part of Monmouth County, and most of the people are white, and there is no town center to speak of. And I thought, okay, so we're open to anyone who comes to us. But we're really nice people. I have an African American friend who, he says, I want to say threatens to visit us. I said, oh, because they'll be all over you trying to prove they're not racist. It's okay, I'm used to that. I just want to say we're really new at this. So that's also true for members who come, but we have also been working on our website and trying to name and live into being a progressive UCC church. The flags represent that. When they put them up, things happened. Hateful things. People would say bad things. They would call on the phone. We had to get Homedale Police Department to go by more often. Our flag has not been ripped down as it has from other churches. But I thought we need to begin to live into the A part of open and affirming. We need to affirm who we are as a people, and because I'm an activist, we allies need to step it up right now with very horrible, abusive legislation. I can't keep up with how many bills that have been put forward since January. I hear something between 240, 250, particularly trans youth. I appreciate the United Church of Christ and the resolution coming forward to reaffirm and go deeper and stronger into this. So, Monmouth County, being mostly red, is being targeted, as you can imagine, across the country to turn it. New Jersey is a democratically controlled, well, that's to say controlled, oriented state, but if enough people from the bottom begin to assert themselves in school board meetings, city councils, that's how it starts. And so I had a UU friend, now this sounds like a joke, who called me and said, there's a school board meeting, and this is the second meeting, and they're trying to overturn the New Jersey law that's perfectly stated about how teachers should act and their rules and protocols for protecting all the children. And so the amendment, the revision, is to allow parents more say in their children's education. Sounds sort of innocent in a way. So it's using the vehicle of parental rights. Colts Neck is a upper middle class suburb, and suburb also to New York City. So I saw this, I posted it on Facebook, some of the people are there, I said, who wants to go with me? So 6 people from the church said, I do. So we went, and it was the most horrific, vitriolic, horrible stuff I had heard in years. And I lived in Palestine. I lived under military occupation. I was back home. I thought, I can't believe that they are talking like this. And nobody's saying, well, actually, the trans community showed up, the LGBTQIA community, the coalition showed up. The kids would stand at a monitor like this, their former school teachers like this, talking about what it meant, thanking them for providing them the safety net to be who they are. That was not safe at home. Their parents were not the safe place. And then the people from Colts Neck mostly would come up and talk about they needed to have their rights and so on. And then a very conservative Christian man got up and I thought, why didn't I do my homework? Well, I am not prepared to speak at this moment. I don't have the okay of the church, just myself wearing my little collar. I got 6 people here in our rainbow colored t-shirts. we have to do more. So I'm an organizer. So I said, okay, we're having a strategy meeting at my house, and we're planning our strategy. Because next week, okay, thanks. 3 school board meetings are meeting the same night. I said, no. You got 3, we got people. So we're gonna spread out. We had a planning meeting last week. So we went over, we need a statement. We need 3 statements, is what you have. You think, what's wrong with these people? Can't they get it right? We have 3 statements. We have a statement for the website. We have the op-ed that's going to all the local papers, and we have a 3-minute speech, because that's as long as you've got at the podium, and you cannot waste words, and I talk slow. So we need to get it right down to the bone. There's 3 points we want to make. We want to get the UCC in there, and we want to talk about why we are here. And we have a wonderful person who wrote this for us. The op-eds went out yesterday. We're talking very fresh here. And the statement will go up on our website. And I asked the moderator, I said, pull me back if I'm going too fast here. She said, no, we're an open and affirming church. You do not have to have a vote from the council. We are glad you are doing the work of the church. I said, okay then, because don't be surprised. I think some pushback might come as we show up. And the beauty is, by having a written statement, I don't have to give the statement. I don't have to be the clergy person speaking. Everybody in that group can speak. We have people in other aspects of life. We have a woman who's a family therapist. She wrote a statement, it went to the school board, and it's on record. And she spoke from her behalf. So it's not just you have to be churchy about it and have a church statement. You just need to gather everyone in. And it's going to keep happening. Homedale is on this little country road, but it's a busy road. So we've already decided that we will do a rally using my house, which is the manse next door to the church. So we've got a lot of property here. We can invite everybody. We can invite the whole town who wants to be with us. We can invite all the churches, the synagogues. This is our asset. We're doing asset mapping. We've got space. You know how churches are like, what are we going to do with all our space? You've got outdoor space. You've got all those Friday night cars stopping there. So I just want to read, because I know you have more things to concentrate on. I just want to read the end of our 3-minute little talk. Your proposal, if adopted, will remove a crucial safety net from students. Informing parents against the students' wishes could cause great harm. There have been too many tragedies. Suicide is an epidemic among LGBTQIA+ youth. Sometimes school provides the only safe harbor a student has. Jesus said, I came that you may have life and have it abundantly. John 10:10. As the Council of Conference Ministers of the UCC has written, the lives of trans and non-binary people are precious. They are God's beloved children, our siblings, created like all of us for a life free from hatred and recrimination. The church cannot be silent while our trans and non-binary youth and their parents are subjected to abuse and exposed to public defamation. As leaders in the United Church of Christ, we want every person of transgender or non-binary experience to know this: you are beloved by God. No earthly power can separate you from God's love. God created you perfectly. Your gender identity or expression is God's gift to you in the world. And when I read this, which of course I'd seen before, I realized we're not just talking to the school board. We're talking to all those youth who bravely come into this hostile environment. And yes, it's nice that we wear the little rainbow t-shirts. This says we are here for you. Not to convert you, not to have you come to our church, even increase our numbers, so that would be nice. We want you to see us seeing you. This is the opportunity that the crisis presents. Kip is here, and I know that we're over, but I want you to talk to her as a member of the church and what this is doing to our church body. All of those books and things on revitalization and how to do it, you just be yourselves. You just live into what you say you're about. I know it sounds really simple, but that is what's happening here. Thank you.
So as I acclimate to the Central Atlantic Conference, I realize that there are unique challenges in different parts of our conference. You know, what it would mean to embrace an O&A identity as one of 2 churches in West Virginia, or what it means in Shenandoah, or other places. And sometimes what it takes to get over that bridge or that edge of fear is a regional network of support that says you don't have to do this alone. And I can think of no other part of the United States that has been more effective in doing this than the area surrounding St. Louis. So we have a member from a regional group called Gateway, Open and Affirming, Lauren Cope, former member of Nashville as well. But I wanted to invite him to begin to cast a vision, because when I arrived here, I was surprised to learn there's not a regional presence in Pennsylvania, even parts of New York and other areas. So what we can begin to dream and vision about is an effort that is far greater than Central Atlantic, and that Central Atlantic could be the leader that brings this together. So Lauren, if you would cast the vision and show us what might be possible in this region.
Good afternoon. Okay, first of all, I need help handing out these 2 handouts. I am not a very creative person, and so I copied the handouts. One is on colored paper, and one is using colored ink. That's the extent of my creativity for this. And I tried to pick rainbow colors, but realized that we didn't have enough rainbow colors in my church office to do all of them on the pages, and purple didn't look very good. So, as Craig has said, I chair the group called Gateway Open and Affirming, or Gateway O&A, or for some people they call it GONA. For a long time, GONA was the only organization like that in the United Church of Christ. Andy Lang, the former executive of the coalition, told me that we were the only ones, but there are a few more now. And we even gave birth to one over in Kansas City called Heartland O&A, which is HONA. And then there was a group starting in Michigan, and that would be MONA. And then there was a group starting in Illinois, and that'd be Ilona. I don't know how it got it. Yeah, so it got a little crazy. Somebody in the United Church of Christ years ago said to me that in many ways the United Church of Christ is an adhocracy. We just have a lot of ad hoc groups that get started and start to take on a life in the United Church of Christ and then continue to be a part of the United Church of Christ. And in many ways, Gateway O&A is very much like that. If you can find the page that talks about the brief history, it says at the top, brief history, it's written. I always think this should be the opening line of a movie. At the dawn of the new millennium. Yeah. So at the dawn of the new millennium, Epiphany United Church of Christ, which was the first open and affirming congregation in the St. Louis area, and Peace United Church of Christ decided that they were going to attend Pride Fest together, and that they decided they would work together and share a booth. This is both because they make a nice partnership, it's a nice witness, but it's cheaper that way if they would share a booth. So that was really the driving force behind it. And that was the beginning of Gateway O&A. It was started by 2 pastors and lay leaders who wanted to do something. It was not started by the Missouri Mid-South Conference or the St. Louis Association. It was started by folks that came together and said, hey, we should share a table of pride. And it continued to grow. And now in 2008, there were 10 O&A congregations. Then they decided they really ought to start getting organized, adopted the name Gateway O&A, and then welcome more churches in. And so now Gateway O&A has grown to hold monthly meetings held on the 4th Thursday of each month. And if you want to sit in with us, just give me your email address. We meet by Zoom. And so far I ask, are we going to go back to in-person meetings? And they say no. And we continue to address issues of spirituality and radical welcome, particularly as it applies to LGBTQIA in the community in the United Church of Christ. And you can see a list of the things we do in the third paragraph. Oh, the second paragraph, Gateway was organized, as I said, by representatives of local ONA congregations and remains related to but separate from the St. Louis Association of Missouri Mid-South Conference. GONA is, and I like to call it this, we are a self-gathered, self-funded, and very loosely organized group. So we have a booth in the Pride Fest. We have a unit in the parade in St. Louis because of fighting in St. Louis. We have 2 Pride events in St. Louis, one in June next week, one in September. We also participate in Black Pride. We also support other Pride events around the country. A few years ago, in 2012, we started a day-long educational event called our Convocation, and it's to help ONA churches live more fully into their ONA commitment, and for non-ONA churches to learn about the joys of being ONA and how to begin the ONA process on their own. And in October, we hold an annual fundraiser. It started out as trivia night. I'm not sure how popular trivia nights are in New Jersey, but they're very popular in Missouri. And then it kind of morphed into drag bingo. And now we do drag bingo. We actually do part of that online. You can participate with us if you'd like to, and 100% of the money that we raise from that goes to the National Coalition. So we send all those monies into the National Coalition. Now you may realize that Missouri is not the best place to do drag these days. We have some people in Jefferson City who think that's inappropriate. But we have a former member of the legislature who attends from Epiphany Church at Gateway meetings, and I said, well, let's plan for drag bingo, and if the police come and arrest us, we'll just shut it down. And she said, oh no, we won't. We're going to protest, we're going to do it, and we're going to fight the police, because we're going to do drag bingo. I thought, okay, you're a former member of the legislature, this should be interesting. So I'm going to let J-Mo go ahead and lead that fight. We also provide travel reimbursement to Barb Edenstein, who is our Open and Affirming coach. And she travels all over Missouri and Illinois to meet with congregations, to work with them through the Open and Affirming process. Andy invited her to meet with a group from Hawaii, and when I talked to her about doing that, I said, if things work out right, maybe they'll need you to come to Hawaii and meet with them personally and consult. They didn't. But he also had her meet with some people from Maine, and she was excited about maybe going to Maine, except in January. But we made a decision that we would pay travel reimbursement to Barb as our Open and Affirming coach to work with churches. And in one of the first meetings I went to with her, I remember vividly that she said to a church, this process is not to be divisive. Do not go into this process and if you fear that it's going to be divisive. And if it is, you're not ready to vote. Don't vote before you're ready to vote. She says that very clearly to churches. How are we funded? We send out an annual request to every Open and Affirming church to send us up to $300 per congregation. Some send us much more, others send us much less. But the group has always said that the gift of money is not a prerequisite to participation. Everybody can be at the table, everybody has an equal seat at the table, and it's not like dues or you're not going to be able to participate unless you pay your money. I've included down there the website if you want to look us up. Now our tech person left a couple of months ago, so we're not as current on our website as we'd like to be, but we'll get there. We have a Facebook page, and if you have more questions for me, there's my email and my telephone number down there. And currently there are 24 churches in Eaton Theological Seminary which make up the membership of Gateway ONA. Now on the second page it says Gateway ONA mission statement. The mission of Gateway Open and Affirming Coalition is to serve as a resource for churches who seek to embrace the diversity of God's people for all sexual orientations and gender identities. We strive to serve as a spiritual support resource for LGBTQIA, lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, queer and questioning, intersect, and ally individuals and their families and friends. But I want to stress our focus has been on local churches. Supporting local churches, supporting pastors, supporting those people who want to engage in the open and affirming process. And then once a church has voted to be open and affirming, how do we support them in living more fully into that commitment? And I think the last paragraph of those three says, being an ONA church is a public declaration that all are invited into the full life and ministry of the congregation, and that the grace of our still speaking God is a blessing offered to us all. I listed again there the list of events that we have every year. The annual convocation is online if you'd like to attend. We welcome you to do that by Zoom. Pride Fest is next weekend in June. We have openings for volunteers on Sunday if you'd like to come to St. Louis. Tower Grove Pride is the last week in September, the drag bingo. And we continue to be an ongoing resource to churches and individuals, and offering an ONA coach to churches exploring and entering the process of more fully being ONA. And there's a little note with what I just told you about. Missouri is a difficult state in which to live for LGBTQIA people. And we work with and promote the work of a local political action group in St. Louis called PROMO in addressing legislative issues both in the city and the state. A few years ago, when there was an issue in the legislature, we talked about how Gateway ONA could get involved, and we determined that we just really weren't equipped to be involved with lobbying for legislation, but that's what PROMO does. And they give you all the resources, they can tell you who to write to, they can tell you what to write, and so we support PROMO rather than try to duplicate what PROMO does. They do it so well. Now, I included in here the open and affirming structure. The only thing I'm going to say about the structure is we lived for many, many years and had absolutely no structure. It was just, the meeting is Thursday night, anybody who wants to come, y'all come. And we get a bigger room, and we'll put more chairs around the table, and we'll buy more food, or whatever it takes. And then everything was going along really swimmingly as a democracy until somebody came with a really questionable idea about how we ought to spend our money. And people said, uh-oh, we don't have any control on how we spend our money. We don't have a budget. We don't have anything like that. So the decision was made to entrust a couple of our long-term members with trying to write a structure for us. The biggest thing in here is we're a democracy about everything except spending money, and then we become a Senate-style government. So anybody who gathers around the table can talk about programming things, but if you sit around the table when it comes to money, every church gets a vote. So it's one delegate per church to vote on if we're spending money. So Thursday night we had our meeting. I brought in a recommendation that we buy 1,500 carnations. Why are we buying 1,500 carnations? That's what the florist asked me. We're buying 1,500 carnations because for the Pride Parade we throw beads. And our Pride coordinator, parade coordinator this year said, I think that's environmentally bad. We shouldn't be throwing beads. Let's do something that's more environmentally better. And after a talk about can you imagine all the stuff you can hand out at a parade? Somebody said, well, why don't we just do flowers? Flowers are pretty, flowers aren't biodegradable, flowers aren't going to hurt the environment. So I called our local UCC florist and said, I need 1,500 multicolored carnations. And I need them in a week. And he came through at 60